The Laken Riley Act, a threat to constitutional rights and a disturbing echo of Chapters.Introduction, the passage of the Laken Riley Act through Congress and its imminent arrival on President Trump's desk mark a pivotal moment in U.S. history. This legislation, disguised as a measure to streamline immigration enforcement, poses profound risks to constitutional rights, human dignity, and the foundational principles of liberty and justice for all. While proponents of the act champion it as a step toward national security, its implications point to a chilling erosion of the freedoms that define America. Historical parallels. Learning from our past, the United States has made grave mistakes in its history when it sacrificed civil liberties in the name of national security. The internment of Japanese Americans during World War II remains one of the darkest chapters of our nation's past. Over 120,000 individuals, two-thirds of them U.S. citizens, were forcibly removed from their homes and placed in internment camps. This was justified as a wartime necessity but was later recognized as a blatant violation of civil rights, driven by fear, prejudice, and political convenience. The parallels to the Laken Riley Act are unsettling. Like the internment of Japanese Americans, this legislation targets specific demographics under the guise of national security, overlooks constitutional safeguards, including due process and equal protection, creates a dangerous precedent for mass detentions and systemic discrimination. As a nation, we vowed never to repeat such atrocities. Yet, the Laken Riley Act threatens to rekindle the same fear-driven policies, this time directed at immigrants and marginalized communities. Constitutional violations, if signed into law, the Laken Riley Act would likely face immediate legal challenges due to its constitutional infringements. Key concerns include due process. Under the Fifth and 14th Amendments, the Act enables detention without adequate judicial review, undermining the principle of due process. The Constitution explicitly prohibits arbitrary imprisonment. How can we claim to be a nation of laws while denying individuals their basic legal protections? Equal protection violations by disproportionately targeting immigrants and specific racial or ethnic groups. The Act risks trampling on the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Such discrimination directly contradicts the Declaration of Independence's assertion that all men are created equal. Encroachment on free speech and assembly. There are fears that the Act could suppress dissent and curtail First Amendment rights. History has shown that the erosion of free speech is a precursor to authoritarianism. State sovereignty. Under the 10th Amendment, the Act coerces state and local governments into enforcing federal immigration laws, undermining their autonomy. This overreach sets a dangerous precedent for federal intrusion into state governance. Economic drivers. Profiting from human suffering, the financial underpinnings of the Laken Riley Act reveal a disturbing profit motive. The bill is projected to cost $83 billion over 3 years, with much of that money flowing to private prison companies. Stocks for these companies have surged as the legislation advanced, signaling the anticipated windfall from mass incarceration and detention. This is not about security. It is about money. Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently condemned this profiteering, stating, "It is shameful that members of Congress are lining their pockets with private prison profits while dismantling civil liberties. This is not governance, it's corruption." The attack on birthright citizenship. In addition to the Laken Riley Act, President Trump's attempt to end birthright citizenship through an executive order poses another grave threat to constitutional principles. The 14th Amendment guarantees citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States. Efforts to undermine this right reflect a fundamental misunderstanding or outright disregard of constitutional law. Legal scholars and civil rights organizations have strongly condemned this move as unconstitutional and un-American. Birthright citizenship is a cornerstone of America's identity, rooted in the fight to abolish slavery and ensure equal rights for all. Dismantling it would undo centuries of progress and pave the way for systemic exclusion and inequality. A disturbing echo of the Nazi playbook, the detainment of immigrants, suppression of dissent, and assault on constitutional rights under the Laken Riley Act bear eerie similarities to policies enacted in Nazi Germany. These include mass detentions. From IC raids to detention centers, the parallels to concentration camps are undeniable. Propaganda. Using fear to justify inhumane policies, targeting immigrants as scapegoats for societal problems. Profit motives. Just as Nazi leaders exploited forced labor, private prison companies now stand to profit from mass incarceration. The lesson from history is clear. When fear is weaponized for political gain, democracy and human rights are the first casualties. The role of global leadership. A hypocritical stance while the United States pursues these draconian measures, global leaders like Israel engage in their own controversial policies. Born from the ashes of the Holocaust, Israel now faces accusations of using Nazi-like tactics against Palestinians, bombing homes, killing civilians, and justifying it in the name of security. These actions echo the same justifications used for wartime atrocities in the past. Call to action, the Laken Riley Act, is more than a piece of legislation. It is a test of our nation's resolve to uphold justice, fairness, and the rule of law. As citizens, we cannot remain silent. To lawmakers, where is your outrage? Where is your backbone? History will judge those who stand idly by while the rights of the people are trampled. Stand up for the Constitution or risk losing the trust of those you represent. To the American people, this is your fight. Speak out. Contact your representatives. Support organizations like the ACLU and SPLC. Let it be known that we will not accept legislation that betrays our principles. Final words, the internment of Japanese Americans taught us a painful lesson. Fear-driven policies lead to the erosion of justice and humanity. Today, the Laken Riley Act threatens to repeat that mistake on an even larger scale. To quote the Declaration of Independence, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. If our government no longer reflects the values of justice and equality, it is our duty to demand change. The time to act is now.